In some of the videos in this series on the breath that you may have been looking at, I've been talking about how yoga practitioners tend to actually breathe pretty terribly because the mechanics of the breathing's all wrong. I've also been talking about the benefit of reclaiming soft, natural breath. But there's another thing you can think about with breathing techniques in yoga. And an easy way to think about breathing techniques is to break them up into 3 categories. Now, I often talk about these categories as balancing the breath, activating the breath, or more tranquilizing breath practices. Another fellow that I listened to his podcast, Lucas Rockwood, talks about these as the water, coffee, and whiskey breaths. Just another way that might help you to think about it. The water breath is a balanced breath. And the word we use in yoga to describe balanced breathing is samavriti. And samavriti just means sama, same or equal, vriti, oscillation. So it's the same length in the breath. So what we want to think about when we're doing breathing techniques in yoga is that generally, say in a yoga practice, and if you want to get into just a real balanced state of mind, we want to bring a balance to the breath. So that means inhaling for a count, say of 4, and exhaling for the same count of 4. And when you start doing that, it just creates almost like this metronome effect, this lovely balancing effect where inhale meets exhale. Now that's not always the case because some people throughout the day are breathing one or the other too much. It could be that you're inhaling more than you're exhaling. And that's often the case if you're exercising or if you're a little bit stressed and we're kind of getting those anxious breaths in and you're not breathing out properly. And this is leaving a kind of charge in your blood and your brain, if you like, that's leading toward more anxiety and stress. On the flip side, sometimes if we're sort of feeling heavy or tired or even a little bit depressed, we can be doing the other. And we're kind of breathing in very shallowly and then that exhale's more heavy and long. So just by reclaiming balance in the breathing, and especially in a yoga practice, and when you're doing some meditation, really helpful to just bring that lovely evenness to your mind, balance out your blood and your brain. And yet there's another type of breathing you can do, I call the activating breaths, or the coffee breath if you like, which is about revving you up, which is about stimulating your nervous system and your brain and your body, really waking up. And these are great to do in the morning. They're also great to do in that sort of mid-afternoon if you've had that bit of a slump. These are breaths that we often call like the breath of fire or the bellows breath in yoga. They're done forcefully, and you're normally activating your abdomen to do these breaths. So you're activating that power center in your body, just like if you're doing Pilates or core work, it's going to give you a lot of energy. So when you take control of the breathing process using your core, your abdomen, breathing sort of more than you want to, breathing vigorously, almost hyperventilating just for short periods, you start to sort of increase cortisol in your body, which is a stress chemical. But we do it in a balanced and modulated way, so we get a sort of a hit of that cortisol. It really wakes us up. Kapalabhati, the breath of fire, is often called the shining skull breath. And I say to people, say that because it almost like feels like you blow your head off sometimes. You just feel so awake and buzzing and alive. So these are great breaths you can do regularly throughout the morning. If you're doing some meditation or you're doing a yoga practice, do it at the start of your meditation or yoga practice to really wake up your brain. Then the third kind of breath is what we might call the tranquilizing breath or the whiskey breath. You know, you have that drink of whiskey and it's going to super chill you out. And there's a number of different types of breathing you can do here. But generally, what you're going to think about is slowing down the breath. You might think about, firstly, slowing down the exhalation. Whenever you take control of the exhalation, it's going to have a sort of net effect of calming and soothing your nervous system. Like, you know, if you go for a nice swim and you're doing all that regulated breathing, and then you might take a quick breath in and then breathe out over 4 strokes in the pool. And you get out of the pool and you feel pretty chilled out, you feel nice. Or if you're singing and you take a quick breath in and then you might hold these notes over a long period for basically 1 exhalation. It's why smokers like to go out and have a cigarette, because they take a puff in and then they breathe that long exhale out. It makes you feel relaxed. Equally, you can start bringing in some breath holds. So you then, in that way, you'll breathe in for say 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, hold for 4. That's called box breathing, like breathing around a box. 4, 4, 4, 4, 6, 6, 6, 6, whatever you want it to be. But you're balancing out the in-breath with the pause, the out-breath and the pause. And this has a wonderful effect of really soothing your brain and nervous system quickly. Box breathing is something that the Navy SEALs teach to their cadets when they're learning to be under extreme stress and learn how to switch off that stress and get back into a relaxed state quickly. So these are just 3 things you can start to bring into, say, your yoga practice throughout a class. You might do the activating breaths at the start. Throughout the practice, you might do the more balanced Samavriti breathing, of course. And at the end, leading into Shavasana or some meditation, you want to start to do the whiskey breath, the tranquilizing breath, and slow everything down in that way. So remember the 3 breaths: water, coffee, whiskey breath, or balanced, activating, tranquilizing breaths, and start to experiment with some of them. If you want to learn more about the actual techniques, you can check out some of the videos in the free members area, or come and do one of our training courses, teacher trainings, retreats, meditation programs, etc., where we go into this in a lot of detail. I'll see you again soon.